Google says it's feral. That's easy to remember. What is up, guys? Welcome back. Today's going to be an updated brushes video, makeup brushes. I did one of these a while back, and ever since then I've gotten comment after comment, question after question. Do you still like this? What's replaced it in your routine? Can you do an updated version of this video? I have no idea how long ago it was, but I think it was a really long time ago. It was like in my old house, so it was at least a year and a half ago. And a lot has changed, and I'm going to basically share with you guys. I have my whole box of all the brushes that I absolutely love and use on an almost daily basis to achieve all of my different makeup looks that I might be in the mood for. I have a box of them next to me. I'm gonna go through each one, and I've also filmed this look coming together so that you can see most of them in action. I applied a whole bunch of different layers of makeup to my face today in an attempt to use every brush, and I still didn't manage to do all of them, but I think we got almost all of them. And also, I wanted to make sure to tell you guys, if you're watching this in real time, not all my brushes are by BK, and this is not sponsored by BK, but BK Beauty is the company where a lot of my brushes come from. It's owned by Lisa J Makeup here on YouTube and over on Instagram. Lovely, lovely human being. She found me, put me on her PR list a while ago, and I've gotten a chance to try tons of BK brushes, and I have been just immensely impressed by them. And I always have a 10% off coupon down below, so if you're not watching this like the day it comes out, do not dismay. But if you're watching this in real time, now through the following Monday, I wanna say like August 1st, whatever that is their anniversary sale, and it's gonna be 20% off site-wide. I don't know if that is going to be like, there's gonna be a code, and so you can't use my code, or if you can actually combine the offers. I have no idea. Again, this is not sponsored. I don't have like all the information in the world. I just got an alert that said that like you can tell people about the sale the morning that it starts. And so that's why it's another Thursday video. I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that, because the brushes are not really, really cheap. You know what I mean? They're not like e.l.f. drugstore cheap. And I believe that they are worth the money. They are so unbelievably wonderful. But if you can get that discount, girl, get that discount. And so, yeah, 3 years of BK, that's part of what's being celebrated. And also, I'm just psyched to show you guys brushes that, like, as my routine has changed and as my like channel and my skills, I guess, have like matured, I have grown to really appreciate great brushes. So these are the brushes that make it possible. Let's go ahead and jump in. Yeah, I applied like 3 different bronzers and like 2 different contours today, just in an attempt to demo as many of these as possible. So, starting with foundation. I only demoed one of these, but they're both worth talking about. So these are my 2 favorite brushes to apply foundation with, and occasionally I will use a sponge if a foundation kind of comes with a sponge or something like that, and that's kind of how they suggest that you apply it. Like the Kosas, for example, I will go and like dampen a beauty blender, but I am 9 times out of 10 a brush girl for my foundation. And I have been using both the Rare Beauty foundation brush, which actually I want to say is pretty affordable. I think it's like under $25. So great. And then also the Beauty Pie Seamless Foundation Buffing Brush, which I want to say is like under $10. It might be like $12. Their prices fluctuate, but they're both incredible. Incredible. And I really, like I always say, I need like 18 of these. I love the shape of this thing so much, the Beauty Pie one. And you know, if you're not a member on Beauty Pie, then obviously it's not really like worth talking about. But if you're not and you want a lovely foundation brush, the Rare Beauty one is fantastic as well. So I'm not gonna get super close because I don't want it to blow out, but that's what they look like. My brushes are not clean because I use them. The difference here is that the Rare Beauty is a little bit stiffer, and it actually has this like angled thing. What is this thing called? I'm gonna Google it real quick. F-E-R-R-U-L-E. Google says it's feral. Just like me. Okay, so ferrule. That's easy to remember. So the ferrule on the Rare Beauty one is tilted and pinched so that it's kind of square shaped, diamond shaped. And I feel like that puts just the right amount of pressure, you know, for applying and blending. It doesn't drag against your skin. And then the Beauty Pie one is duo fiber, so it's like extra soft. It feels like it's even denser than the Rare Beauty one. It's super, super soft, but it's so densely packed. And instead of having a tilted angled ferrule, it just has a tilted brush head. It's just slightly angled. They're both, even though they're not huge, they're both relatively relatively quick, and I think that they're the perfect size to get in the nooks and crannies with foundation and not slow you down as much as like a tiny little concealer brush would. So moving into concealer brushes. This will feel like deja vu because it's the same brands and they both make fantastic concealer brushes. So this is the Rare Beauty concealer brush and this is the Pro Angled concealer brush from Beauty Pie. So again, if you're a Beauty Pie member, this is a great thing. It's my, absolute full-throated recommendation for it. If you aren't, this is excellent and just as good. So you can see the Rare Beauty one it's very similar, got that angled ferrule, and then also it's diamond shaped on the cross section. And the Beauty Pie brush actually does have the angled ferrule and it is duo fiber and incredibly soft as well. So there's kind of the size comparison. Each of them is equally, respectively, about a quarter of the size of the foundation brush that they go with. And honestly, it's just whichever one I can find. I would say if you're a member of Beauty Pie, go with the Beauty Pie. If you're not, go with the Rare Beauty. All right, next, this bad boy. This is the BK105 and it just feels like power. It feels like power in my hand. This is what I used to put on my Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer today. It is a very sheer bronzer, and so you really want something that's going to cover a lot of area so that you get that really airbrushed appearance and it doesn't end up splotchy and picking up a lot of product that's already on your skin. So if I'm going to be applying to a large area, which I was putting this basically all over my cheeks and all over my forehead, I want to make sure that it's done in as few strokes or as few pats as possible, and this thing is fantastic. And again, putting bronzer on with this, it just feels kind of like Thor's hammer. There's something about it, it's like, ah! So yeah, if you need to feel powerful, I don't know, don't read too far into it. It's just a really great, big, wonderful brush, the BK105. All right, next, and this is something that I didn't use today because Lord knows I put enough freaking contours on my face today, but this is what I would use if I were using, for example, the Patrick Ta Cream Contour. This is the BK106 size comparison. Oh, nice. My baby's sick. He's like got, it's not COVID, but it's some kind of horrible green goo coming out of him everywhere. So yes, this is what I would use to apply my cream contour if I wore any today, and that is the BK106. It just has this really nice dome shape to it. It's fluffy enough, sparse enough, I guess, that it really diffuses the product, but in a small area. You know what I mean? It's like you want it to be really evenly distributed, but not in a large area. You know what I mean? Fits right there. Fits right there in your little cheek area. Next, oh boy, y'all see me use this one a lot. This is the BK101. This is the cream brush of life for blush. It is so excellent. It taps things on, you can buff with it. It has never bothered me to buff with it, but I do tend to tap things on just because I'm usually working with multiple textures on my skin. It's easier to do that without picking other things up. It's so targeted and it's so dense and it's so soft. So it really picks up a good bit of product and it doesn't like soak up product. It's like easy to clean, easy to just wipe off. And this is the one that I'm always reaching for because it's just the right size. Like it's just the perfect size for putting on cream blush, and I use it absolutely all the time. I actually have more than one because I also have the travel set, so I have one with like a shorter handle on it and I reach for them interchangeably. As far as powder, blush, and bronzer are concerned, let's talk about this one first. So this is the BK102 and it is the bigger of the two that I have of this shape. It's just kind of this oval shape. And again, really soft, but also has this nice kind of point to it, which gives you options. You can apply kind of with the side of it like this and sort of pat product on, or you can go right in like this and it's going to apply a more concentrated amount right here at the center, and then it's going to diffuse on the edges. This is so lovely for powder, bronzer, just larger areas, or if you are someone who powders your whole face. This is a really great way to, just distribute powder in a really even way very quickly. So that's the BK102. And then I have the 104 here too, which is just, again, about half the size. And this is so good for blush, especially blush that you're afraid is going to be too pigmented and you are really wanting to like get a very even light distribution of it on your skin. This is going to feather it onto your skin a lot better than some of the, I mean, I have ones that are also, I'll show you in a second, but like a little flatter, a little bit more domed than pointed, and they're going to lay product on in a more concentrated area. This is going to diffuse it more. And so this is what I use when I'm using like the bronzers from Bare Minerals or the RMS blushes. There's just a lot of blushes that I really love the color, but that doesn't mean that I want to wear like only that blush that day. And it's like I can get this on a larger area in a thinner veil with this brush right here. And I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but this is the brush that I would use to, like I said, kind of smack blush on at the end. It kind of does that like kissing motion where you get that concentration of the color that you want to be like the most prominent as like my last step to my blush routine. And this is the BK 103. And you know, you can just see that like the 104 has this almost pointed shape, whereas the 103 is quite, you know, domed. And I would say that they're about evenly distributed in terms of actual like density of the bristles. Yeah, I think that the 103 might be a little bit more dense. And so it's going to work for that precision application. Last step of blush, this is typically what I'll just like slam into my Pat McGrath blushes because they are sheer, but I want a lot of them. You know? So it's kind of the opposite of the other case. Powder, contour. I know. There are so many different ones, but like sometimes a tool, like a different tool really makes a difference. That doesn't mean you have to have, you know, a different brush for every step in your routine, but I used to be very lazy about this and I ended up with my makeup looking muddier because I was not just using the same size of brushes, I was using like one brush the whole time. And it's like, okay, you can't go powder, blush, bronzer, contour all with the same brush without like cleaning it off in some very effective way throughout your routine because you'll just end up mixing them all together. So it is important to probably have like at least 2 or 3 different tools, you know, so that you're not mixing your contour with your blush with your foundation. So this is Gray Handle. This is the BK by Angie Hot and Flashy A507. This is an awesome set that Angie and BK put out together, and there are a few from this collection that just kind of blew my mind. And this one is just so excellent. You can turn it like this and kind of get just the base, like the heel of that brush, because it's angled, and apply a higher concentration of contour like that, or you can kind of roll it up and get a little bit more, a little bit higher, or you can kind of turn it and use it to buff that way. I find that this works really nicely, kind of getting in the hairline, and it distributes it lightly enough, like a thin enough veil of product for me that like when I'm using like my Natasha Denona contour sculpting powder, got all the way through that and then I screwed up powder. I'll use that kind of to wipe underneath my jawline and stuff to accentuate that with a little bit of contour, and it just does the trick. It never stamps. It's a fantastic little brush. And there's something about these, I don't know, it's like, they're really elegant. All of these, all the Angie Hot and Flashy ones are just, they're just slightly like longer and skinnier. They feel a little bit more like, I don't know, they feel a little more elegant in your hands than the other ones do. The other Angie Hot and Flashy one that I use for my complexion is this one right here, and that is for like very precision powder application where you're like packing powder on any kind of powder, but for me it's like building opacity of my powder in order to get like real blurring underneath my eyes, and this is the BK by Angie Hot and Flashy A506. And the shape of it is just fantastic. It's like this very steep angle with like a tiny bit of curve right there. It's like someone took a relief of this part of your eye and just made a brush that shape. It's a little bit soft, but it does have enough resistance, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, that like it'll, you know, press powder in and you don't have to buff with it. It's just a very delicate little tool. It's lovely. Now, for applying powder the way that I prefer to apply it at the end of my routine, which is anywhere that I don't have other powder, right? Not eyeshadow, not bronzer, not blush. Like I'm not gonna powder my whole face typically. I will usually use it to just apply it where I would get shiny. It's gonna be this. And this has replaced, again, my Wayne Goss 02. So the 02 brush right here, you just can't get it anymore. And it breaks my heart because it was like one of my favorite brushes. But fortunately, these are extremely similar. This one's just a little more domed and a little less pointy, but that's absolutely fine with me. This is the BK 108, and it is just that perfect size. And you know, it's kind of the same shape as the bronzer and the blush brushes, the 104 and the 102, but it's just tiny. But it's very different from this one that I was just talking about, the A506, because this one is very much about just like packing product on. This is about diffusing it. Do you see the difference in the size and the shape there? All right, and finally, I just have a handful here of eye brushes. So I will start with the one that I started with in my routine, as you know, the insert that I filmed. So this is the 202. This is just about the most, for me, like straight down the middle eyeshadow brush, like just domed fluffy eyeshadow brush. It's just what you always saw back in the day of people applying Morphe eyeshadows in their videos and stuff. It was like, oh, I'm gonna grab a fluffy brush, I'm gonna grab a fluffy brush. And this was what I thought was like the only brush that I needed for a very long time when I was doing makeup. I have become older and needed things to be a little less blobby, because blobby is, like messy starts to look even messier when like you're starting to get like lines places. And so I've gotten into more precise eye brushes as a result of that. But like this has always been kind of the foundational brush for any eye look for me, because it's just gonna fluff product on, right? It's just gonna like pick something up and put it down in a hurry, and it's going to be fairly even. You're going to have some control, and it's not going to take all day. And it's also not the kind of brush that's going to pat product on and like build it in specific areas. It's just meant to blend. It's just a fluffy blender brush. The reason that they used it on Morphe shadows is because Morphe shadows don't blend very well. And this is the easiest kind of brush to make something look like it's going to blend really well, because most shadows kind of keep picking up and keep picking up on a brush like this. And if you work long enough, you can get just about anything to blend with a brush this shape. So again, that is the 202. Now, speaking of, again, the Angie Hot and Flashy collection, and how they are all just these dainty, long, gorgeous shapes. She must have asked for the handle to just be more elegant. I can't explain it, but they're lovely to interact with. So this is the A504, and look how much smaller it is than that 202. It's great. This was my quick favorite out of the whole collection, because you just, oh, it's so perfect, because it does everything that I said that the other one does, where it just fluffs and blends, but it's so precise, it's so small. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely caught myself like doing my entire eye look with this at times, because it's so good for people like me who, you know, I have these little crevices over here in the sides of my eyes that don't like to like grab product. They like to just shed product. So it's like if I'm using something that's too big, it'll just be bald right there. And this is just like, no, I must insist that the product sticks, and this is going to do that. And this is so great for what I like to do, which is build a little shadow and blur on my outer corner so that it does kind of give the illusion that my eyes are a little bit bigger. It is just really like, when you have it in your hand, you'll find 1,000 reasons to use it. It's just so easy and precise and intuitive, and I can't believe I never had one this size before. Okay, next, and I did not use this one in the video, but this is the BK207. This is the travel one, so you see that they're shorter. So, you know, by comparison, they're like plenty shorter. And this is this really fantastic little domed guy. And I mean, you look at that, and that is just, that's a brush that you can automatically think what that's going to do. It's going to be less precise because it is kind of like blunt, you know, but it also has the strength of having just like a little bit more blendability than like a pencil brush. I don't really have a specific pencil brush, so to speak, in my collection of things that I like, because I find that they pick too much product up and they don't really lay it down evenly. They tend to fall out on me. I would much rather have something like this. And if I wanted to get super concentrated eyeshadow application from a powder, I will always pull out a smudger from like the other end of an eyeliner, wet it, and I'll dip that in the shadow and use that. But it does still have a nice ability to like blend after it has laid the product down. It's a little bit better at diffusing. So now, if you are in the market for a brush that's going to lay product down a little bit more, kind of like your finger, you know, you're not a person who necessarily wants to slam your finger in every single product to put it all over your lid. This one right here, this is the Angie Hot and Flashy A501, and it is long. You know what I mean? It's long and flat. So very, very different from that 504. It's just what you would think of as a flat brush, and if you have one in your collection already, like, you don't need to go and buy one specifically from this brand just because I like it. It's just a nice thing to have. It's not something I reach for all the time, but today I put on a satin shadow all over my lid, and I don't always want to do that with my fingers. This is what's going to do that because, again, you have the kind of precision of the shape, but also this is going to give you just enough fluffiness that it blends a little bit. So very, very good shape to have. Not something I reach for all the time, but I think something I'm glad that I have in my routine. It's also really good for wetting if you're wanting to put on a wet shadow. Put some makeup spray on this or something and dip it into a shadow to use it wet. This is fantastic for that. Much better than like a very fluffy brush. All right, this next one, this just happens to be the one that I have on hand. It's from BK Beauty, but I have one from Thrive like this. I've had one from Sigma like this. It's one of those brushes that's in every makeup brush collection, you know, the actual shape of this, because you look at that and you know exactly what you're supposed to do with it. It's great for smudged eyeliner, either like on the corner or getting it right into your eyelashes or underneath right here or something. And you can also use it for precision application up here. It's very, very blunt and like very short. And so it's gonna grab product and place it exactly where you want it without fluffing it too much. And I've gravitated towards this shape specifically because it doesn't pick up as much product in such a weird way as like a pencil brush. I would definitely prefer this to a pencil brush, but again, very, very different from something like that A504. Next, and this might seem nuanced, but this is funny. Towards the end of the Sephora sales, Amanda and I tend to message each other and go, look, it's the last day of the Sephora sale. Like, is there anything that I absolutely have to have? This past sale, or maybe 2 sales ago, she was like, you have to get the Sephora 18 brush. And I was like, okay. This is a great eyeshadow brush, not just for all of the things that I would use this guy for, the 204, but also you can use this with creams. Not that you can't use all of these with creams, like you can try, but this one does a really good job of picking up cream eyeshadow and applying it in a precise way and actually like blending it. And because it's like kind of halfway in between these two, right? It's halfway in between a super blendable brush and a really stubby brush, and it's still got this nice dome and it's not quite as short. And it's also different from this guy. It is, it's more dome shaped and narrower than the 207. There's something about that round shape. It does more blending than something else this size. So it's like you can really get that like Raw Beauty Kristi super, super diffused shadow underneath your lower lash line and stuff with this. Do you absolutely have to have it? No, but if you're someone who's like, you know, rounding out your collection and you are someone who really enjoys the nuanced advantages different brushes can give you for your eyeshadow routine, this thing is fantastic, and it's just really easy to use, and it's not expensive. And finally, last but absolutely not least, because it's one of the brushes that I think everyone who has been to a MAC counter in their life and bought brushes has bought a brush this shape, and it is this one right here. So this is the 208 from BK, but don't adjust your televisions. It is so much smaller than the ones that you would normally see of this shape. So this is the eyeliner fine brush from Thrive. And this is the one that I used for years and years and years. There's a MAC one, I forget what number it is, but it's very similar to this. And I just need this shape in my routine for my eyeliner because I tend to use either an eyeshadow or a putty or a very soft kohl eyeliner. I don't use a liquid. I don't like the way that it looks on me. I don't like the way that it layers on top of eyeshadow on me. I think that a very, very graphic line on me just destroys the illusions that I'm trying to build with all the other blur on my face. It just stands in really stark contrast. Plus I'm terrible at it. So what I tend to do is use something like this to build this softer version of that line that just gently makes my eyes look like they're a little bit bigger, and you have so much more control and so much more time to work. While this has always existed in my routine as a thing that's like, yeah, absolutely, I need that, man, this is even more precise. It's so, in the words of Kate the Great, tiny. It's so tiny. And I used to just not have the patience, you guys. I got this and I was like, that is so small. I will never have a use for that. I don't have the patience. The areas in me just didn't have the patience, but now I've just gotten hooked on it. Because I can get Oh, I can get right in there in between the skin and the eyelashes so that I never have that like skin showing through, ruin the illusion of my eyeliner kind of effect. This thing is just absolutely lovely. So yeah, that's the 208 and it is just so tiny. Those are my favorite brushes, you guys. That's really it. I think that the only thing that's going to be absolutely mind-numbing about editing this video for me is just listening to myself try to figure out how to talk about brushes when I usually talk about makeup. Talking about the nuances of brush shapes, I have to admit, I don't think about it that often, so I hope it was helpful. You know, ask any other questions in the comments. I will try to clarify, but hopefully you are watching this in real time and you can take advantage of the 20% off sale on BK. And if not, there's always 10% off down below. The other brushes too, I'm pretty sure if you order off of Rare Beauty for the first time, you can probably get some kind of like discount for opting into their email list. And Thrive, I also have a 10% off from Thrive down below for your first order. I always have that, so yeah. That should cover that. I hope this was helpful and I hope it's a good little touchstone, a reference point for you guys going forward so that I have something to point to when you guys ask me what my favorite brushes are. So yeah, guys, I hope you liked this. If you did, give it a thumbs up, please. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.